Daniela, and I will be presenting Dyson case study. First, an overview of the content we are going to discuss today. First, the case study summary, followed by the identification of the problem, the case study questions, where first we'll do an introduction of the theory that will help us navigate the questions, and each question have an analysis and preferred strategic option. And finally, we have the lessons learned of the case. Starting with the case study summary, here we have Sir James Dyson, who created his first vacuum in the early 90s after 15 years and 5,127 prototypes. He started this journey because he found himself a problem with his vacuum where the bag stuck, it was full of dust, and affect how it actually worked. So after all these years and prototypes and investment, of course, he realized when he had the final product, he wanted to offer it, of course, but he found out that this business model was like a razor and blade type of model, where the razor will be the machine, but the blade will be the bags. So they were making money for the bags more than the machines. So his first market was not UK, where it was developed and where he is from, but it was Japan, and it was a huge success, and the brand was then synonym of prestige and quality. But now it's the brand name, as I mentioned, it's a synonym of quality, and they have a wide range of domestic products, from vacuums to air purifiers to hairstyling products and so on. So the keys for success for the company are the strong values that they have. For example, they mention that they are continuous improvement and innovation, and also perseverance, because for this experience that he had at the beginning of the history of the company, after the 15 years, he could try because he really believed in his idea, so he translated this to the company. Then we have the brand name and reputation. It's mentioned that it's Dyson, it's named like the Apple's UK. So now it's known for this innovation. So it's the synonym of quality and have very good reputation about their products. I saw an interview about him, and he said like he wants to solve problems that no one imagined, and he's always trying to use the best technology and find the solutions for each failure that the product has. Like he mentions that he considers that every product have a failure and no one solved it, so he's here to solve it. And finally, the investments in R&D. They have huge investments in R&D, product development and research, as I mentioned, new technology and new ways of also fabrication and engineer. But we will talk about this later in the case questions. So the identification of the problem, we have this goal. The goal now that they have is that they want to develop innovative and high quality domestic products. As I mentioned, they had a washing machine. They had, because now they realized it was not a good business. It was too cost to produce it, and didn't get the return expected. But well, they had other products, domestic products, but now they also want to expand the portfolio, but more cutting edge tech products, for example, robots, and use this. Also, they want to develop an electric car, so they want to go and attack different fronts, but also we will talk about this later. And the challenges that they have is that they take so long for R&D, as I mentioned. His perseverance of the owner gives them this value, but at the same time they're competing in this fast market of tech products, and if they're going to take years in make a launch of a product, is going to be too much. They're going to be left behind in the market. Then they have this philosophy of failure. It's okay, but this also implies the high costs, because they're investing in a lot of money in people, in testing, in developing new products. They say they value the ideas of the engineers, and if the product didn't end up like being launched, it was okay. They tried, they move on, they change, but it's money at the end, right? So this is also another problem, and another challenge that I would say is that it is private equity. So Sir James Dyson is the only owner. So everything that the way he wants to lead the company is the way it is led. They don't have a board or someone to advise. So he makes the final decisions, and maybe it can be a problem, like we will see later. So now we have the case questions. First, I will introduce the theory and then analysis and preferred strategic option for each question. The theory I want to introduce, that is going to be like the umbrella or the main guide for all the other questions, are the stages in new product development. That is the theory that was based on the case. This chapter, it's about product development. So this is the main one that we're going to focus. First, there is the idea generation. That is when there are many ways to get the ideas. For example, observation of the customers. For example, brainstorming. For example, so researching. So this is just getting the idea. The next one is the idea screening, is when you really test if this is going to work or not. For example, you can do a focus group, you can do an MVP when it's a lean startup. It's also a possibility. There are many ways to test the idea. It's going to have acceptance or not. So then that concept and development and testing, that it's basically the product, like how it's going to be developed. Then the marketing strategy, that includes branding, value proposition, and sales. Then we have business analysis, that is basically the profitability of this new product. Then the new product development, that is when they really really producing the product. In the other stage of development and testing is just the prototypes. Then test the marketing, and finally the commercialization, that is the last step. So we have the first question is about the factors of Dyson's new product success. So I identify two, that under this umbrella that I mentioned before, we have the product development and also the marketing strategy. I'm not basing the answers in only the time of the case and in the past. I am also basing how they act now and what they want for the future. So it is just it's more complete in the sense that we are not thinking about the 90s. It's just it's how they are right now also, where we're taking in account for the new product success. So as I mentioned, we have product development in one hand, where we are going to explain the 3 product levels, and then the marketing strategy, that where we're going to take the value proposition and branding. These 3 theories and frameworks are going to help us understand a little bit better. So first, we have the 3 product levels. In the core customer value, it's, in the case of Dyson, will be the actual electrodomestic. That it's, for example, the vacuum or the air purifier. This is what the customer are actually paying for, like or are really buying what they're really obtaining for. Then we have the actual product, that it's the brand name, the design, the R&D, the tech, and all of that. And finally, we have the augmented product, that it's the warranty that they have, the financial options that they can give to buy the product, because it's not cheap, it's very expensive. So The augmented product is the ones you can say it's more like a post-sales um, yeah, post-sales work services. Okay, continuing with the next factors of success, but this is now under the marketing strategy. We have the value proposition, where we have this matrix. When in one hand we have the benefits of the product, and the other one there, and the other side we have the price. And in this case, I can affirm that Dyson's products are more for more, because they want, as I mentioned, solve problems that the people have that they're maybe not thinking. But at the same time, the price is so much more than buying again and again these bags to use the actual vacuum. And finally, about branding, we have different elements of branding. In one side we have position that I mentioned before, they was more for more. They also position themselves in the vacuum industry or electrodomestic industry as innovation, also R&D, and as I mentioned also before, they are not afraid to failure. The name is very important because Dyson, it's now a sir, like it's recognized in the country. This is a high recognition. And he's also an inventor and engineer, and he is the owner of the company. About the sponsorship, as I mentioned also as a challenge, this is a private brand. So this means that Dyson is the only one that will make the final decision. Like you can, the teams can talk directly to him, so he can make a decision. It is good in one hand because you don't have to satisfy, as you say, the market or like the stockholders, for example, but Dyson, it seems to have very strong ideas, so it might be hard to change, and we also will see it in another question, but it's hard to change if he already has a way of doing things. And finally, the branding development. I selected two types of development. In one hand, we have the line. It will be the things the new products they develop are line extensions, because they have the same brand name, but also they have the same category. For example, they have many types of vacuums, small ones, big ones. For different, one of them have like a purify, not purifying, but like a virus, not virus, but like bacteria. Yes, bacteria cleaning and all these features. So that's why it's a wide range of products, but of the same line. And then we have brand extension that is using the same brand name, but also new categories of product, like for example the air purifiers, the hair products, and so on. So these are the keys of success of Dyson. Like to sum up, we have the elements of the product that we saw, the theory of the 3 levels of the product. Then we have the value proposition, and then we have the branding. So the second question was regarding why it was the delay in launching his first invention, and for this I found three elements that also it's related to the first theory that I show about the new product development. In one hand, we have the concept screening. I think he just, as I told you the story of how he decided to do this, he just thought about this situation, about the bag and the machine, and how it was a problem for him, and he probably thought this is a problem for everyone, but he didn't ask. He really didn't test if it was a real actual problem, or He didn't do a focus group. He didn't maybe do a survey about this. He just think it's a great idea, I'm gonna make it. It was a great idea, I'm not saying it's not, but he didn't screen the concept, so that's what it was missing. And then the business analysis, we're going a little bit forward in the process of the new product development, and then we're going to back. But the business analysis, he didn't think about the business model. He's an engineer. Maybe he didn't know much about how, like, a business or management training. Probably he didn't know about this concept. Like, he really didn't think about the costs and repercussion of the market. So there's also something that they had to take in count, and that's why it was hard for him to find someone or find a market, someone who wants really to work with him and develop and actually produce this and commercialize it. So he didn't do the business analysis. And finally, the segmentation, that is part of the marketing strategy. He didn't really think about it. Probably he didn't think how much it was going to cost. Probably he think everyone will want to buy it, since the richest rich in the country, since the queen, probably to the, I don't know, someone like low income. So he didn't think about this, and he had to think about the segmentation. So nowadays, as I could research about how the company works, I would say that it's also applied for the first one, or the first invention that he had, but he had to think about this deeper, right? So okay, by the segmentation, there are many types of segmentations, but it's always better when we mix them and make it our own theory or our own tool. So for segmentation, I identify that for geographical, they have big cities worldwide, urban and downtown. For example, they started in Japan, even though UK it's also big. They have big developed cities, but his first invention was more suitable for a more tech, like a tech mecca, like is Japan or Tokyo. So the demographic, I would mention that it's people from 35 to 60 years old that are professionals, all genders, and upper class. This is very important, as I mentioned before. I think he didn't really think about the income of the persons that can buy this product, and he just thought like everyone desperately wanted to buy it, and I think it was not the best of the ideas he had. I think he didn't thought it deeply. Then the psychographic elements, they have to be people that are technological early adopters, maybe into engineering, even sci-fi, because the products, as you saw in other pictures, they in my presentation, but in the other slides, nowadays they look like space things, like spatial instruments, something like the astronauts will use and not everyday people will use. And I would say that maybe now that we are used to technology, it's easier for us, or many people, to really want these kind of products, to have them in their everyday life. But probably in the 70s, when he started with this idea, and after many years, of course, that when he introduced it was in the 90s, but in the 90s it was not a priority. Now it's part of our lives, and as I say, many people really want this, but I think before they didn't really care about this. They want commodity, they want to be the same, they want to use the same products that they were always using, so they were not as acceptance of the new technology as we are now. So that's also one of the delays. And finally, behavioral. There are people that want to simplify their daily activities. They value efficiency and they are willing to pay more for this efficiency. But this is nowadays. Like I remember I told you this chart is about like now, but we're comparing it to the past. So this is now, but we have to think about when it was made, or when he started developing this. It was the late 70s, 80s, and he finally launched it in 90s. And in this time, many women, most of the women probably stay at home and had to clean the house. It was more generalized than now, I would say. Even in developed countries. So I think they really don't need this. I think that for this kind of product, for like electrodomestic products, finally the person that's going to use it, especially in the 90s, especially in the past, was the woman. So if they were not into these psychographic elements like technological early adopters, these kind of things, they will not want to have it in their house because they were going to use it. So probably they would thought it was too complicated. But nowadays, the equality, it's much better than before. We still have many things to work on, but this is another topic. But the thing is that also men and women are doing their own stuff. They're both working, they're both focusing on their careers, and they want to simplify their daily activities. So having maybe a vacuum that do everything for you, and you don't have to think about further. It's so much better. So that's the delay of why it was delayed, the launching of the first invention. There was the second question of the case. Then the third question is about what failures in the product development can happen. And well, talking about Dyson here to give you an overview of this question. We have here the stars are like the top, like the good things, because here the question was about the lessons learned about the new product development. But so the stars are the things that they did very good. The happy face, it's the things they did good, but they could improve. And the X, or the wrong, I don't know how to say, it's the things that they didn't do good, so they could learn more. And it's also mentioned in the case that you fail, it doesn't mean you learned. So we will see. You will see now that I will be explaining each one of them. So for the year generation, it was good. When it born from a necessity, and it was actually from James Dyson, the owner and the inventor. It's always good. It's always good because you find a problem and you want to solve it. So I have no objections on that. So moving on to the idea screening is the one that I mentioned in the other question, that he really didn't think about testing his idea, and that's what caused the delay of the launching of the product. So I think one of the lessons learned about this is that you always have to test if it's going to work, if it will have acceptance. That's the main idea of the screening. Then the concept development and testing. He took a lot of years to do it. Maybe at the time he didn't have the technology, but now that they have, the concept can be developed better. And testing and making investment in research and development, it's very good for the companies in general. So it's very good that he do it, but it's at the same time what he can learn about this is that maybe don't have it. if it's failure, it's good and it's accepted. It doesn't mean you can do whatever, because it's also mentioned in the case that maybe there are no competitivity on the engineers. They think they can do everything, and maybe they just don't really think about it. Like they can do better research, so they cannot like they don't spend so much resources in doing something that cannot work. They can be more filtered in their ideas. So the marketing strategy development was done at the beginning, but at the same time the sales were the ones that didn't go well. They didn't have a partner or someone that would really want to develop the screen. They didn't really realize about the value proposition. They didn't realize about the branding or the product. So especially about the value proposition, I think he didn't have it very clear. So when he went to sell his idea to the developers or the companies that can really make the machine, it didn't sell. So that's why he also didn't do the business analysis. That's what I mentioned, that he didn't realize about the cost, about the business model, and all of the elements that you have to screen to see if it's going to be profitable. So he didn't think about this as well. The product development, well, was also a challenge for him, but he overcome, because he finally find a way to do the to came up with this new product that didn't exist on the market. So he finally did it, but it took so long. So that's what I mentioned before. It was a problem. He didn't test the marketing. He didn't have marketing at all, so he cannot test if he don't have it. And finally, the commercialization. Once he found a partner, it was a success. Like in Japan, was a success because they finally found the place to sell it. But maybe like this, he will not have to wait so long if he do the right steps in the new product development. So yeah, a lot of sweat and tears that he didn't have to to happen. Then this is the fourth question, is the challenges in the product of the life cycle. Here we have this nice graph about the product life cycle, where in one axis we have the sales and the other one we have the time. We start with the development, so we have negative sales, we have loss actually. Then it starts with the introduction, the growth, what is the best moment for the product, then maturity and saturation, and finally decline when the product goes down, probably out of the market. But it was also mentioned, and it is true, that the vacuums don't have it had a long maturity. Like they are not going away so soon. Now we have these robots that take out the dust, but I don't think they will replace 100% the vacuums as we know them right now. Probably not in a couple of years or even 10 years. So it's maturing, maybe going to decline, but they still there. This kind of product, like of course, like, for example, washing machine, we will always use it. Like it's a product that is a necessity now, so it's hard to don't have it or change. So it's a slow process for this kind of products. It's not so high, it's not fashion, it's not trendy, it's something that will always stay in our lives. So in the first stage we have development. One challenge for his portfolio is the long time for research and development. They take many years in some cases to develop the product. Then they have the introduction stage, where instead of like theoretically they will have to go low price, but they have a high price since the beginning, of course, because of the long time investment in research and development. They have to have a high price, and they're giving a good product too. It's not that the product is not good, it's not technological. They're A1, but it's a high price. So and also they don't have a cost plus, they don't have something to sell with. In the growth state, we have no product extensions, like as this is a problem that he wanted to solve. So of course, with the vacuum, you don't have a bag, so the vacuum works alone. You don't need maybe you will not need a new feature for this vacuum. Probably you will have to buy the new one that it's, for example, bacteria, the one that kills the bacteria, but probably the first one that don't kill the bacteria, you cannot use it anymore. You will have to buy a new product, and it's going to again the problem of the high price. Then for maturity, I would say that right now in many of their products probably they have market cannibalization. This means that going again to the example of the one that has killing bacteria or not, you have many things to choose from that, and you're developing and investing so much in this that they're eating, like the products are eating each other. So they're even not growing so much. Maybe that's why in the decline phase I mentioned fat products, because I think many of their products I think that they think can work, and maybe the design is very good, the product is very good, but they're many of the same, and they can go like be launched and go down like very quickly. Like introduction slow, like not slow, but like not low growth, and then disappear, go directly to decline, because as they want to be in this high-tech industry, they will have to go, and how improvements you can do to to a vacuum, like that's why I think he should pass to other type of products. But at the same time, it's hard for their long R&D, and we will see this in the last question. I'm going ahead the program, but yeah, I wanted to mention it. But yeah, there are many challenges that they have in the product life cycle of his portfolio. And finally, about the innovative culture. Culture is very important for the brands. So they have this motto of in constant innovation. I mentioned also about that, not afraid to failure. They mention also they want the high tech. This, as we see, they're like aerospatial products that they're selling. But I really think that they have to really think about this, like who's going to buy this, and they will have to rephrase their values and motto. I think that's the number one that they have to do, because they can have. They also mentioned that they have perseverance as one of their values, but you cannot wait so long to make a product, because the other markets are going to, or the competitors are going to go ahead, because they're specialized in one product and they're starting in this in other types of products. So yeah, they have to consider this, like that they cannot invest so much in R&D. They just have to focus on one thing, and also don't take so long, but at the same time still value the innovation, and still value the commitment of workers. Then, as I mentioned, they have to benchmark the competition. If they want to compete with Tesla, they want to compete with Apple and another tech companies, they have to speed up. Like they have to see how long they take. They see how much it costs for them, so they cannot be delayed. And finally, I would say that they must be HR changes and also internal marketing, because it was mentioned that it was a competitive environment. Instead of working together as a team to develop product, it was like more like a solo flying in the aim to develop products. So it is important for to create this branding and the culture to be translated to the employees also as well. So finally, the lessons learned, we have that they is so important to have idea screening to prevent overcosting R&D. I think that's the number one. They have to understand the segment. I think they really have to know who the customers are, and I think they have to stop making products that I know he wants to solve problems, but I think they're creating problems. Like they want, as we see here in the picture, they have like 4 vacuums. I think they all do the same. At the end, they take the dust of the floor. Like what else can do a vacuum for you? So maybe if he wants to be innovative in this way, he can do it in another way. Maybe I'm not part of the segment, even though if I don't know, maybe we'll have one vacuum, but how many vacuums a person can have? So it's hard to sell many vacuums or many products to the same one, because they are so durable. They also advertise it as so durable that they will not have to change it in a short term. Next, they have to build a brand with strong values. I think they do very good in this, but maybe the values have to be rephrased and changed. So the strong values are not the problem. The problem is that they have to adapt to the world and consider who are you competing with, and also consider the product life cycles in the market. Like we see, for example, phones. It's something that now we expect as a consumers to change. Depends. We have to consider. Some will change the phone. Very early adopters will buy the next iPhone every time it comes, but other people will wait until it gets bad. Maybe 2 or 3 years having the same phone. Maybe you have the idea of having a vacuum many years. I don't know, minimum 5 years, because it's going to be the same unless it breaks. I don't think someone will change it, and that's why they have to consider the life cycle in the market of the product. So that's all that I have for today, and I want to thank you so much for your attention.